This show is for you, boo, on what it means to know, love, and lead yourself. I'm Stephanie Sauvé-Bogue, coming to you live from Moonwild Studio, and you are going to want to stay for this Snackisode. A Snackisode is a mini version of the You Boo podcast, and today I am bringing you some hot life hacks around your calendar, your keys, and your accoutrements. What do I mean by accoutrements? I mean the things you need to have with you to perform the tasks that you're endeavoring to do. So, if you found your way to this show, then I trust that there have been times in your life where you felt like, why can't I just be on time with the things that I need? Right? I don't know about you, but for a long time, my life mantra accidentally became something that I did not like. In fact, I despised this, but this is something that developed over time. It's too little, too late. Too little, too late. Why did I keep having this experience? Even though I was so ambitious, so driven to succeed, creative, talented, I got good grades, I had intelligence, I had creativity, but there was something holding me back. And if you are someone who knows that you are neurodivergent in any way, and that maybe you have a zone of genius in certain areas, but then everyday life can feel like such an incredible challenge. Not everyone's going to relate to this, but many, many people are. And so I'm speaking to you if you have ever been the person who, once again, can't find your keys, your glasses, your wallet, your phone, who once again is 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, is still looking for parking and texting the person that you're meeting, almost there. If you're the person who's showing up to the meeting and everyone is there with all of this stuff that they need and already have a coffee and a glass of water, and you're coming in and you take everything out of your bag while everyone's watching you, and you really, really wish that you could order a coffee, but now you can't take the time to do it because everyone's been waiting on you. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I forgot my computer cord and my computer is almost dead. And oh my gosh, I grabbed the wrong notebook. Oh, and my pen doesn't work. Have you had those moments, love, where it feels like it's just too little, too late? And maybe you showed up to that meeting that day with an incredible presentation to give because you poured your heart into it, and maybe you only slept for 4 hours last night because you were so amped up about giving the best presentation of your life. And of course, you were still working on fixing last minute things and making it as best as it could possibly be because you deeply care and you're ambitious and you're talented and you're intelligent and you have gifts to give to the world. But then you show up, boo, like a frazzled little tornado, hurling yourself into a space, maybe covered in cat hair, without the things that you need. This feeling that we get when we are being witnessed in our mess, of not being able to just be good at the easy things about life. Easy for some people, right? Like, know where your keys are, leave on time, bring your computer charger. It's not hard, right? Like, there are people who will say, That's easy. The hard part is coming up with a brilliant presentation and then having the courage to deliver it. However, for some of us, the hard part is actually being organized and knowing where our keys are and having the things we need and getting there early enough that we can order a coffee and be grounded and be ready to deliver our magic into the world. And so, what I never want for you or for me anymore is to let these little barriers get in the way of your greatness. And so today, I'm going to be delivering to you some hot life hacks that have really helped me in overcoming this way of being that made me feel like a chaotic little tornado. And so the first thing to know about this is whether or not you have ADHD or some kind of spicy neurodivergence, right? Like if you know this about yourself, or if you're someone who can relate to this, who's like, well, that's not me, or I don't know if that's me, but I can relate to this. So, what I want to bring to the conversation is all of our unique brain makeup and the way that we are is specific to us. And we will have a certain constellation of all of these, what people might call symptoms or behaviors that don't feel supportive to us. Like we can't stop doing it, but we hate it. And it's like, why do I feel like I can't help it? So that's very real. It's real that we can't help it. So, first of all, I want to validate you in that. It's not your fault. You have a zone of genius, and it's not that. That's okay. When you are not particularly strong at executive function and linear thinking and being organized, that actually allows for incredible capacity for abstract thinking and intuitive feeling. And that isn't available to everyone. And so you're going to find like maybe you're a creative person if you're this way. Maybe you are a deep feeler or an intuitive. And so we all have our strengths and we all have a very important place in the world because of that. However, since we are all interacting together in this modern society, there are certain things that would serve us to become better at. And so here's the good news. Neuroplasticity. We can change. We can heal, we can learn, we can grow, we can become badass and good at anything that we set our heart to that matters to us. For sure, there's certain things some of us will never be good at. But what you'll find is those things are probably things you're not meant to be doing anyway. Like, I'm not going to go play in the NBA. I'm 5 feet tall and 95 pounds, my friends. I have no desire for that. Of course, it's an unattainable goal, but it doesn't matter because it's not what I'm here for. So if there is something that you deeply desire to do, then you get to pursue it. Do not let your natural strengths and your natural weaknesses decide what you can and can't do. We want to follow our strengths and focus on those the most. But where there's challenges that prevent you from going all in on what you really want, you get to grow in those areas. We are movable. We are able to stretch and evolve and grow so much. And what I have experienced for myself when I really applied myself to this stuff works. And so I remember so viscerally an experience I had when I was in university. I was going to Emily Carr University on Granville Island in Vancouver, BC, a beautiful school, just a dream come true. And I had come up with this really cool idea for a product design. I was studying product design and I'd come up with this really cool idea for a way to entertain your pets when you are not at home. And it was this little ball that had technology in it so that it would roll away from the animal using sensors. And so it basically allowed the animal to chase this ball around the house when their owner wasn't home. And now I can see that that product exists out in the world. But, 15 years ago, when I was in school, as far as I knew, that product didn't exist yet. And so I was really excited and I actually got the technology to work. And that was really exciting to me. And it came time to present it. And I knew that I had a really good idea. I knew this idea had so much potential, and I really thought I need to put this out into the world. And then fast forward to the opportunity to present it to my class and my colleagues and the professors there who, did interact out in the real world outside of school and could help us with bringing these things to life potentially. And so these presentations really mattered. And gosh, this one day, you guys, it's so incredibly cringe how I showed up this day. I think it's around 8:30 in the morning, and I am standing up in front of my colleagues, my classmates, my teachers, and I feel like a zombie who is dehydrated and pale and exhausted. And, at the time, I would never leave the house without makeup on. And this day, I had no makeup on, and my hair was a disaster. And what was I wearing? I don't know, but it probably had stains on it. It was probably my pajamas still. And I was setting up my computer, looking and feeling like a total dirtbag. And my computer is frozen and I can't get my presentation to turn on. And I'm internally panicking in front of everyone, and everyone is patiently waiting for my presentation to show up on the screen. And so I get it up there. And what I'm about to present to these people is an unfinished presentation that has blank slides in between, half-finished slides in between finished slides. And I stumble my way through this awful presentation, full of nerves, full of shame, full of embarrassment, knowing full well that I had a genius idea, but I did not deliver it. And all of that, oh my gosh, that mess of a presentation still haunts me. And what it speaks to is the way that even though I had brilliant ideas to bring to the table and could even figure out the hard parts of how to do it, when it came down to actually giving myself the time to put the presentation together, to do it on time, to have everything I needed that day, to show up on time. Did I mention that I also showed up late that day and I missed my presentation slot and I had to go later than I was supposed to? So I already had attention drawn to myself. I was late. My presentation was a mess. And gosh, my computer was probably dying the whole time because I probably forgot my freaking charger, honestly. This is the way I was living. I would fast forward to the morning before I even got to school. Guaranteed, you guys, I had stayed up all night long because I had procrastinated too much and the presentation wasn't done. So I was exhausted. And then I didn't even get to shower or put on makeup or anything before school. And then I probably ran around my house stressfully looking for my keys and showed up that day with no water, no food. This is how I was living, just could not keep up with the pace of life. And if you can viscerally, emotionally energetically in this moment resonate with the pain of being witnessed in that and experiencing that and living that way, then you are not alone. Because I have been through so many moments like that, love, where I was living so far below my potential based on just a few simple life hacks, not being hacked yet, right? Like too little, too late became a thing, just like had happened in that moment. And I walked out of my class that day with my tail between my legs, just with the level of disappointment and shame that you cannot believe. And it hurts me to even reflect on these moments, because what I needed during that time in my life was guidance and leadership in these areas that I'm about to give you right now. It is not shameful to be a grown ass adult and not know some of this. It is not shameful to be a teen or a student in college or even someone in your 60s or 70s and not know these things yet, because we're not really taught, here's how you take care of your belongings. Here's how you get places on time. Here's how you can think about that if it's hard for you and doesn't come naturally to you. For some of us, it does not come naturally. And in fact, it's one of the hardest things in the world, even if you're incredibly talented, creative, and intelligent academically, you might really struggle with these things. And the good news is that we get to shift it. So I hit a breaking point in my life where I decided I will not have losing my keys once again be the reason that I don't get that job, that I get fired from this job, that my friends are angry with me, that my family's upset with me. I am not perfect at having all of this together, but my quality of life has improved so much for so many reasons. And it all happened because I decided to make a shift with so much conviction and determination and belief in myself that it was possible. And so, first of all, that's what I want to invite. You don't have to continue to play out the same patterns in your life if you don't want to. You are capable of shifting this. Instead of too little, too late, you get to show up and slay. Instead of too little, too late, you get to show up, baby, and slay. You get to show up in your greatness and your magic and your magnetism, because you have put the things in place that support you so that you can actually be experienced for the badass, beautiful, talented, capable human that you are, instead of for the tornado that you can become when these things fall to the wayside. So let's talk about keys. Replace any belonging that applies to you, but keys is such a common one. And this was a problem for me. So I hit this breaking point, right, where I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on one thing at a time. Keys first. I am committed to always knowing where my keys are. How am I going to do that? What I started to notice is I started to pay attention to where is the disconnect between having the keys in my hands and then running around like a chicken with my head cut off, wondering where the heck they could have disappeared to. Well, I guarantee you and I promise you that they didn't get up and walk away, so it must be my fault, right? So often before I was blaming something besides myself, like, why does this always happen to me? Guess what, babe? Nothing's happening to you. You just forgot to pay attention to this pivotal moment. So here's the moment I want to invite you to pay attention to. If you are about to have something leave your hands, I want you to begin to plant the seed in your brain of awareness that says, when I'm putting something down, I'm paying attention to where. So This might be painfully obvious to some of you, but to others, you will be like, okay, let me think about if I actually do that. And if you're losing things all the time, I guarantee you, you're not. So if you struggle with misplacing your belongings, the first thing to do is to slow down your movements if you can. Take a breath. If you're about to put something down, make a mental note. Where am I putting this and why? I started to bring conscious awareness to every time I had my keys in my hand. I put a rule and a boundary around if these keys leave my hand, there are two places they can go, and that is it. They can go into this one pocket in my bag, or they can go onto the key ring in my kitchen, and that is it. And then I would catch myself on all the following days after that. Coming in the house hungry, I had whatever kind of day, where I see my partner and I'm immediately excited and I just want to put my keys down on the table. Or I just want to put them down on the bench near the front door. Or I just want to put them down on my bed. And then I would notice this behavior and I would immediately course correct and be like, wait a second, the boundary. So I would take the keys and I would go put them on the hook. And I very intentionally committed to this. And it took many days until it became automatic. And it did become automatic. And now I never lose my keys. This is miraculous for me because after a lifetime of losing my keys, to be able to be a 40-year-old woman who that no longer is an issue in my life is huge. And so you can program your own subconscious mind with the desire to do so and the discipline to keep at it until it becomes natural to you. This is so powerful. Whether it's your keys or something else, I invite you to begin to try this. That pivotal moment, what causes you to lose them? It's the not paying attention when you're putting something down. Have boundaries around where you're allowed to put things and pay attention to the moment when you're doing it as best as you can and see what happens and how your life begins to shift. This all leads to, how the heck do I be on time? Well, what I realized is one of the reasons that I was always late, you guys, is, and look, sometimes I am fashionably late to social affairs still. Okay, but to important things, I am on time. When I'm leading, when I'm speaking, when I'm teaching, when I have a client session, I am early now. And that is because I decided with all the conviction in my heart, spirit, and soul that I would be the kind of woman who was a professional who could be early for her people and be on time. And so I want to give you a little bit of a life hack around this that is life-changing. So first of all, knowing where your things are plays a huge role in this, right? This is why I said in the beginning, keys, calendar, and accoutrements, because the accoutrements are the things you need to do what you need to do. So what are you doing to support yourself in knowing where your things are and having them organized in advance so that at the last minute, you are not running around trying to find everything that you need? So the calendar hack I want to give you, aside from that, is a game changer. So often we look at our calendar, right? And we think, okay, let's just say you're going to something that's from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then you have a few other things scheduled throughout the day. What we make the mistake of doing is saying, I have something from 8 to 9, but 8 o'clock is when it starts and 9 o'clock is when it ends. So if you put in your calendar, you have a thing from 8 to 9, you are already not setting yourself up for success because that is not taking into consideration human time. What is it going to take for me to get there and to be there early enough to be ready to start at 8? Okay, so you need to actually put in your maps how far away this place is, like days in advance, and look, how far away is this? Then you need to add time on in case something happens, like traffic. Then you need to think about how long does it actually take me to leave my house from the time I'm ready to the time I have all my things gathered to the time I'm driving out of my driveway. You need to account for these in-between times. So if you need to be somewhere at 8, it's very likely that that time block in your calendar actually starts at 7 or 7:30. And then after that, 9 o'clock, it ends at 9. Okay, well, you know what? Everyone's going to stay after and chat a bit. And then I'm going to have to pack up my bag. Then I'm going to have to walk to my car. Then I'm going to have to drive to the next thing. How long does that actually take? You need to look at that for real, for real. Likely, you can't have a next thing planned until 10. But what we do is we say, okay, I could do 8 to 9, then I could do 9:15 to 10:15, then I could do 10:30 to noon, then I could do 12:05 to, right? We schedule ourselves out as if the in-between times don't count. And this is why I see people every day running around being just 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, unprepared, not having what they need, and they feel so stressed. And it's because in their calendar, instead of putting 7 to 10, which is what 8 to 9 actually is, they're putting 8 to 9. And you believe you have so much more time than you do. We need to be realistic with ourselves in order to slay. You will not succeed more by trying to pretend that you can do more. You will succeed more by being brutally honest with yourself about what's actually possible and then work within those boundaries. These are the parameters we have to work within. For example, if I'm going to go to yoga and the class is an hour long, I have to know that that time commitment is not 1 hour. It's actually, depending on the class, and if I have to shower afterwards, that time commitment is 2 hours minimum and maybe 2.5 to 3. And you know what we do though? We don't want to admit that to ourselves. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to say, oh, to get somewhere by 10, I have to leave by 9:30 and I have to start getting ready by 8. Okay, so to do that 1 hour thing, it actually takes me 3 or 4 hours. That sometimes is true depending on the thing we're doing. So here's where our life changes. When we're willing to be honest with ourselves about how long things actually take. And what I've started doing is in my calendar, I account for it. I will put get ready blocks. I will put travel time blocks. I will put prep for session before my sessions. I know that if I'm going to deliver a quality experience for my clients, I need to be in my space at least 20 minutes before them. And I have to take that into account, as well as how long it takes me to drive there, to park, to get ready before that. So for me to deliver a session at 10, my process is starting at 7. Now, some people might not need as much time, but here is where your life changes. When you decide to let go of what everyone else needs to do and do what you need to do. If you need 2 hours to get ready in the morning, then own it. You don't have to think that people should take 30 minutes or an hour to get ready. Says who? I had a mentor once who let us know that she takes 3 hours to get ready in the morning because she has a ritual she does, and here's all the things she does in those 3 hours, and it's important to her. Why can't we have that? Why can't we decide that that's how long it takes me? Then we also need to think about how long does it take after we've just done something to wrap up from that and to transition into the next thing. Here's where everyone is late. We forget about the in-between time. And we also forget about the time that it takes to allow for things not going exactly as planned. We have to factor that in if we will be successful. And so we need to breathe spaciousness into our schedule, and then we need to own it and admit to ourselves, this is what will get done today. And I get to remove everything else because it's a lie anyway. And that's how I can eliminate the chronic stress of being behind. So start to, in your calendar, add in the actual buffers that you need and see how it changes your life and your mindset around how much can actually be done in a day. And you will go to bed feeling so accomplished when you could see there are 4 things I can do today, and that is it. And you allow for the proper amount of time for those and you succeed at that, you're going to feel so good instead of you pretended you could do 8 things and you didn't do any of them well because you were so stressed and so behind and so unorganized. So here's what I hope our culture does. We need to take this to heart as a whole culture, but it starts with each one of us saying, I am taking ownership of the time things take me so that I can actually effectively bring my best self instead of my most frazzled, stressed out self to each situation. So there is so much more to talk about in terms of boundaries when it comes to that conversation, but that's the little hack for today. Lastly, accoutrements, my friends. We can't have a snackisode without accoutrements. So this is what you need to do the things that you are doing. So here's another little life hack that has completely changed my life. I have this way where I often can't think about or become aware of what exactly I need to have with me or to do in advance before an event is happening, let's say. Okay, so let's just say you're planning a birthday party, or maybe you're a really ambitious entrepreneur and you're planning like a huge summit or a huge event. Whatever it is, we're always approaching things in our life that we need to be prepared for that is on the calendar, and maybe it's 2 weeks out. So what I used to do is I would get to, honestly, the day before, and I would realize like a tsunami of awareness would hit me. Oh my gosh, I didn't do this, and this takes 2 weeks, and I need to order this on Amazon, and it's going to take a week, and oh my gosh. Now I have to figure out and troubleshoot all these alternative solutions to make things work and improvise. And trust me, I've become a queen of improvising because of this. But it's a very high stress way to live, my loves. And so what I realized I needed was, because the way my brain works, I'm not organically and naturally thinking ahead 2 to 3 weeks or a month out. And okay, what will I need? It's someone's birthday. It's my husband's birthday. What am I going to need a month from now for that? Some people are really, really gifted at that, and some people are not. So for those of you who are not, here's what you can do. And here's what has helped me profoundly. What I do is I make sure to take time with my calendar and look ahead and see what are the significant dates in my calendar that I need to be paying attention to. Am I hosting an event? Am I collaborating in something where I have to lead? Am I organizing something? And look ahead. And then often I won't be able to just logically think about immediately, what am I going to need, right? So what I need to do then is I do what I call a future casting meditation. And I lead people through these one-on-one. If you're ever interested in this, we could do an in-depth version. But for the purpose of the Snackisode today, for this podcast, what I'm going to invite you to begin to play with is, can you place yourself just emotionally, like, close your eyes and sit yourself down and take a pause in your day and imagine yourself, project yourself into the future, and it's the day before the event or the day of the event, even better. And begin to imagine it beginning to end. how the event's going to go and what you're going to do. And what you're going to start to realize is all the things you need to make it work in as great of detail as you can, to imagine yourself living out that event. And then take your journal and write down everything that you notice that you are going to need for that. And then look at that list and see, what do I need to start doing now? For example, sometimes I have public speaking opportunities. Am I beginning to practice? Because I can't just nail it if I haven't practiced. So I need to begin to practice. Is there a present I need to get for someone? Is there decor? What needs to be put in place in advance? And when I do this future casting exercise where I put myself there on the day, what is so brilliant about this technique is that I think of things that I never would have thought of that are a little more creative or in depth or troubleshooting. Like, what if it rains? Did we think about that? What if this? Did we think about that? And then you become, instead of a hot mess tornado, you actually become someone who is able to provide an experience that is so mindful, so well thought out, so conscientious of other people's needs and what they might, because you already felt into the day and you lived it in your mind. You placed yourself in that future moment, and you imagined, like, what do I want to wear? Do I need to get my nails done? Do I need to get a haircut? What are all the things I need to start thinking about now, a month in advance, 2 months in advance, a week in advance? And here's the thing. You want to do check-ins with this. Keep looking at the list, because there's going to be things you need to do sooner and things you need to do the night before. So let's say I have a DJ gig. Something that I do is, in advance, I'm putting together the list. I'm getting in the flow. Maybe I'm busting out my gear and practicing and just getting in the vibes. But then I have a big list of a checklist that is the day before. That's like, here's all the gear I need. Here's all the backup things. Here's all the lessons I've learned from the past of things that could go wrong. And here's my solution for it. It's all in my suitcase. And I have a list to refer to every time so that I can make sure all the accoutrements are there, so that I know when it's time to leave the house early for the event, I have everything I need. And I do not have to try to run to the store that is 30 minutes from my house to buy that cord because I forgot that my other one fizzled out at the last gig, because I already thought about it. I already went through all my gear. I already made sure I have batteries for my microphone. I already future casted what are all the things I'm going to wish I had on that day, and then I took care of it in advance. Do not test your ability to improvise, my loves. I have been doing that for so long and I am good at it, but it is not the way that you can live in flow and in your magic. So when I am prepared, when I've taken the time and the discipline to do this right, I can then soften into being present with people, being in my intuitive flow, being able to tune into the magic that is around the opportunity. Because if you show up prepared, now you can soften into flow, and maybe you can change things because you're in such an intuitively grounded place that now you're in the zone of magic instead of in the zone of stress. I want to exhale all that energy of the chaos and the tornado self, right? And I want to invite for you, boo, this fun that it can actually be to work on yourself in this way, to decide to be someone who is showing up prepared, on time, professional. It will change your whole life. It will ease your nervous system. It will allow your heart to be more full, because when you know that you've got this, that's when the magic can begin to surprise you. That's when you can be in your talent and your creativity again. And so let the structure hold your magic. I used to think that working on these things was boring and a chore, but honestly, it has allowed for more bliss and more opportunity and more success. And I know that also is obvious, but it's not easy to shift this. It is possible though, and it actually is more achievable than you might think. What it honestly takes is the decision. I'm going to shift this. And then after that, it's just a practice, and you get to keep practicing, and you get to keep celebrating every single step of the way when you notice yourself getting better. So this snack is becoming more of a meal. So I'm going to sign off for today. Take these little life hacks with you. Please send in any questions that you have that you want me to answer on a future episode, or even personally. Send me a DM, send me an email. I would love to hear from you. And here's another fun thing I'm inviting for my listeners. I would love to hear, what do you want me to coach on when it comes to knowing, loving, and leading yourself? And I will see if I can feature your topic request on an upcoming episode. This is for you, boo. Thank you for being here.